Fart Emblem 12, Hard 3, 0% Growths, Chapter 21. The roster is the same as Chapter 20, except Wendell instead of Etzel. True to its name, there's a lot of wyverns to kill here, but Etzel is just a few points of damage short of one-shotting them with Excalibur, so he wouldn't be much help. Wendell isn't much help either, but I need him to get to B-rank staves, and this is the perfect time to do it. If the last two chapters were defined by the Levin Sword, this one is defined by the Physics Staff. Similar to Etzel, none of my possible bow units one-shot the wyverns from full with Geitz, but we get a new unit at the start of this chapter named Ymir. He's a warrior with 15 speed, which makes him approximately trash, but his 20 strength does allow him to one-shot the wyverns with Geitz, so that's something. I got a few unrouted Levin Sword crits in the last two chapters, so I'm going to end this chapter with 3 Levin Sword uses left, and then just leave them in the convoy to sort of account for that. Another point of interest in the preparations is getting some money. There's a secret shop on this map that sells 3 of every stat booster, and they're 2,500 each since Intelligent fucked me out of the silver card. So I need 15,000 gold for all the boosters that I need. Katarina does have to eat this goddess icon that I was hoping to sell, and I'll point out why when it comes up. Immediately on turn 1, I can show you why I don't like this chapter. There are 2 wyverns to our right with perfectly overlapping range. They have 28 speed and high damage, so no one is even able to cross this line of red tiles, except our max speed Swordmaster Katarina onto a mountain tile. And even then, she has to dodge one of the 2. This is a microcosm of the entire chapter. Powerful enemies with extremely long and overlapping range, forcing you to move extremely slowly and only kill a couple enemies at a time. Unlike Chapter 11, which was really cool because you could pull each wyvern on its own. So yeah, this map is boring and it's stupid. The one interesting thing, I suppose, is the side objective. We need to reach a village in the top right corner very quickly before it gets destroyed by a horde of thieves, so Minerva and Palla are heading off around the outer edge of the map to deal with that. The village is guarded by a lot of strong units, including a wyvern and a meteor tome sorcerer, so it seems almost impossible in a run like this, where your flyers are so weak, so I can at least show you how to deal with that. But I'll warn you now, it's not very interesting. I guess since they fought together in Shadow Dragon, Ymir already gets a support bonus from Marth, which gives a very welcome boost to his hit rate against these wyverns, so make sure Marth is within 3 tiles. This is the turn though where Katarina needed the goddess icon. There's a 3rd wyvern to the right that's gonna pull, so I need this berserker to target someone other than Katarina. The only unit fast enough not to be doubled by him is Midia, but she has 9 luck, so Katarina needed to be raised from 8 to 10. I suppose Zane as a copy of Katarina is also fast enough, but I don't think there's a way to make the berserker consistently target Zane instead of Katarina when they have identical stats. It's the same as I said on turn 1. My units are just stuck, waiting outside max range. It's so boring. Midia gets a Master Sword crit on counter, and it's hard to talk about routed crits in this chapter. Some stuff is gonna crit, some stuff isn't, and you just work with what you have to get past each turn. There are 2 more wyverns to our north, basically in the middle of the map, whose range covers an area that Minerva and Palla need to pass through. So it's critical that we pull those wyverns on this turn or next player phase at the latest. Katarina's gonna do it now, on this mountain tile, because waiting doesn't do anything for me. I can't pull or kill anything else before those wyverns, and this one mountain tile is outside of the Swordmaster's range. Unfortunately, it is inside the Meteor Tome Sorcerer's range, and I swear I wouldn't do this if I didn't have to, but Katarina needs to dodge 2 out of these 3 attacks. I'm going to turn on the animations so you can watch the swag dodges for fun. And I think this is one of the biggest red flags of chapter design. It's turn 2, and Fina has nothing to do. She can't contribute at all. 44 and 45 hit, it's not bad odds at all. This turn is still the same crap. All I can do is inch forward because look, if Fina dances for Ymir this time, she'll die to the Meteor Tome. So instead I do this cute little in and out with the Avatar's longbow, which we got last chapter, and it's amazing. and Midia finishes off the Wyvern with the JP Eliwood. Critically, Zane does not have enough strength to do this, but Midia doesn't have enough speed to avoid getting doubled by the Swordmaster, so I had no choice but to keep Katarina and Zane close enough to wall off Midia. So we are getting by, it's just 1 inch at a time. And like I said about the physics staff. Palla and Minerva are a few tiles short of crossing the gap here, as you can see, so all they can do this turn is inch a little closer. Ymir's low luck of 5 and high base health make him very good for soaking meteors. We'll see a lot of that in this chapter. He dodges, but of course it doesn't matter. I've got recover stabs for days. There's an incredibly small number of enemy swordmasters in this game whom I do not have to kill with crits, and this is one of them. Ymir hits very hard with Geitz, and the Devil Sword cleans it up nicely. I'd like to remind you that we got this Devil Sword back in Chapter 4. It's been amazing for the entire game. Palla and Minerva finally close in on some thieves. This is where they would die to that second set of Wyverns if they hadn't been pulled by now. Palla chunks at 2 range with the Gradavis, which we got from Harden. It requires A rank lances, so Minerva sadly can't use it. Now that Fina's moved up here, the Meteor Sorcerer needs to die. You could do the combination of the Swordmaster and the Sorcerer however you want. There's going to have to be a crit somewhere. Whatever. I guess this is a good time to mention that Wendell's physics would land a little harder as a Sage, but it doesn't make or break anything, and as a Bishop I can see exactly when he hits B rank stabs and avoid using more physics than I have to. There's thief reinforcements from this cave because Intelligent hates you, and you can see that either Katarina or Zane needed to be next to this fort because anyone else will get doubled by this Swordmaster. The reality at this point is that the chapter is over. As I explained in Chapter 19, simply entering a vendor or armory changes the RNG, and our Draco Knights are in range to do just that. This particular Swordmaster isn't a problem at all if I just use my 11 swords, but again, I wanted to show how I could deal with this if I hadn't been as lucky as I was with my 11 swords in the previous chapters. On the other hand, rigging crits isn't really a better solution than getting lucky, but really, it doesn't matter. This chapter doesn't matter. It's just filler between the good stuff, and I figure most people forget that it's even in the game. So let's just get through this. It's long enough already. So that brings us to this top right Wyvern by the village. If you want to save the village in this run, you need to rig a Gradavis crit with Palla. Period. Anyone you send up here is going to get doubled and die unless you crit on counter. This next vendor is just to make sure that Palla doesn't miss, and that Katarina doesn't get recoiled by the Devil Sword. The Berserker recoils himself all the way to death, which is kind of funny. I had planned for Ymir to kill him with Geitz after Katarina doubled, but this is fine too. I'm not in love with getting a new Devil Axe here. I still have 2 that I've barely touched. I wish I was still getting silver weapons as drops, because I could really use the money after forging FE7. And this is the same problem as always. We can only inch forward a little bit to the next pull, since it's a Wyvern and Berserker with overlapping range. There is at least a decent solution to this one specifically though. Ymir is out of range of the Berserker here, and with his low luck of 5 compared to Zane, the Wyvern will come suicide into Ymir's Geitz bow at range. Palla has to stay in meteor range to keep killing these thieves, so we gotta keep spamming those physics. I haven't mentioned this pack to our left yet. They're covering a save tile, but I really have no reason to fight them since I don't need the save tile for the RNG stuff that I normally do. This vendor is to get Zane to dodge the Berserker on enemy phase, which is needed regardless of whether Ymir is here, since the Berserker moves first. But it's a pretty easy dodge with 30 speed, weapon triangle, and the mountain tile. Zane gets Devil Sword recoil, but it doesn't even matter. I need another unfortunate Gradavis crit here, but the reason is hard to see. It looks like Minerva could go in between the thieves and Killer Lance the one on the right. Normally, the remaining thieves would just reroute around Minerva along the mountains above her. But these thieves are on a mission and will just attack anyone who gets in their way along this one horizontal line. And even if Minerva crits the first thief that attacks her on enemy phase on counter, the second one will move into that tile and kill her. And of course, moving any further to the right will be in range of the Swordmaster. So ultimately, the Gradavis crit really is the only option. We took out this Berserker with chunky non-crits, and that reinforces what I've been saying. These enemies aren't that hard to kill, it's just the overlapping range forces you to slow down so much. Ymir's position here also is going to soak the next Meteor Sorcerer while we pull more Wyverns, and I am getting so bored talking about this. It's the same shit every turn. Wendell hits B-rank stabs, woohoo, and the vendor is for the Killer Lance crit, as well as a dodge from Katarina, because again, there's just no other way to pull these overlapping Wyverns. I do get to do this cool kill setup again though, the in and out longbow with the last of my Forged Wormslayers. I could have just rigged the Mercurius crit there, so at least I still have some integrity. This last pack of enemies is pretty hard to pull without slowing down a couple turns. We're in range of 2 Meteor Tomes right now, and of course I have to dance the Avatar out of that Meteor Tome range, because he'll get one shot even with a fresh Pure Water. And there's 3 enemies up there with overlapping range instead of just 2 like it has been so far. This vendor is just for Zane to dodge an incoming Berserker. But you can rejoice, that is the last routed dodge of the run. Huzzah! Midia takes out the Sorcerer with an easy Master Sword crit, and then it's like, what do I do here? Is it fair to use my 11 swords that I only have because I got lucky? Is that worse than routing a bunch of Mercurius crits? Does anybody even care at this point? And like I was saying, the ultimate truth is that it just doesn't matter. I certainly don't care how I kill these enemies. It's an awful chapter, it's taking forever, and there's nothing to gain by drawing this out. Ultimately, I did kill these 2 Berserkers with my integrity intact, and I do enjoy the chunky Geitz kills from Ymir, that is cool. And then I took the Mercurius crit for the Swordmaster, because again I have to waste Fina's turn getting the Avatar out of Meteor range. Other than the thieves from that cave, this chapter has one reinforcement, a wyvern from this fort with the unique ability to destroy the village, so Ymir needs to block that spawn. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think a non-thief has threatened a village since Chapter 1. I took a third and final Gradivis crit for the sorcerer, and this one's just a matter of turn count. Minerva needs to wait on top of the village to recruit her brother Michaelis at the start of next chapter, and she couldn't possibly have been there prior to this turn. But if she helps kill the sorcerer this turn and sits on the village next turn, Martha's going to be waiting around doing nothing, and I'll lose a turn. Although it would have been really satisfying to kill that sorcerer with Gradivis and Hawkclare. It's a fun combination. According to the wiki, Minerva has to wait on the village by turn 15 to recruit Michaelis, because he's sort of bleeding to death in there. That's a strangely generous time limit. We beat that pretty easily, and this felt so slow. Marth finally reaches the village and receives the Starlight Tome. This allows us to actually deal damage to Garneth in Chapter 23. It's a pretty miserable side quest, all things considered. And then Pala finally visits the secret shop and gets those 3 spirit dusts that Katarina is jonesing for, as well as an energy drop, a speedwing, and an angelic robe. All that's left is to take out the sorcerers and wait for Marth to reach the gate. A Master Sword crit won't kill the boss here, so Leiden's going to have to use Mercurius. There just isn't anything left to say, really, except to reiterate how much I hated this chapter. Like, even 19 and 20x were more fun. At least they were exciting. I had some brilliant setups and strategy and answers and solutions, and this is just nothing. This is just stupid and drawn out for no reason because they wanted to make you fight wyverns one last time or something. I don't even know. And oh, there's a talisman in that cave. Thanks, Intelligence Systems. I'm trying to think of positive things to say. At least there's no more thieves in the game. There's no more villages or shops or arenas. That's all good. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, I guess. I promise my excitement will be back for the last 3 chapters.